Hey guys, what's going on? Abby here, and welcome to my Battle for Azeroth Frost Death Knight guide for ul'dir. I will be going over the Breath of Sindragosa guide in this video. I will not be going over the Obliteration guide in this video simply because it is a completely separate thing. I don't want this video to be too long, and I want it to be well structured. I will be having a second video for the Obliteration build, which is used primarily in AoE situations as opposed to single target situations. It is not usually used over Breath of Sindragosa in either situation. However, it is still a viable build. And what I will not be going over in this video is Azerite Traits and best in slot lists. And the simple reason I'm not going to be doing that is because it changes so much. I don't want this video to be out of date if an Azerite change is made the day after I put this out. However, I will link a website called Blood Mallet. I'll put it on the screen right now. I recommend going to this website in order to check out the actual BIS list that is updated in real time, and also my Icy Veins guide also has the Blood Mallet format linked right there, so you can see that on Icy Veins as well. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Alright, first up in the guide, we're going to be going over the talent build. This talent build is going to be for single target with AoE and different single target alternatives. So first up, the 56 tier. For single target, it's Cold Heart, and the simple reason it's Cold Heart is because even though it does cost a GCD, it still lines up really well with New Pillar of Frost. It still can crit and hit like an absolute truck, and it plays really well off of our mastery because it does do frost damage. This is just a really powerful talent all around, and for AoE situations, it's great because it's good for bursting down priority targets. It, again, hits like an absolute truck, allowing you to do something like that, making it a pretty versatile talent for those situations. Icy Talons and Inexorable Soul are not far behind, and they're both passive, making them very easy to play with. They were also reworked. Inexorable Soul used to be a DPS talent in the utility tier. Now it's just a straight up DPS talent. And Icy Talons used to be stronger, but didn't used to proc off of Breath of Sindragosa. So now that you can get stacks of Icy Talons from Breath of Sindragosa, it makes it a more viable talent than it was for this build. However, again, it's just not as strong as Cold Heart currently. So this is going to be the talent you're going to be running most likely. So the 57 tier is currently between Horde of Winter and Runic Attenuation, with Murder Sufficiency being viable. However, the problem with Murder Sufficiency is it is RNG. If you don't get a lot of procs, or don't get any procs, which can happen with a 50-50, then you feel awful, you have a shorter breath than you want, you're probably going to be getting around 18-second breaths at that point, and it just doesn't feel good. Whereas Horde of Winter and Runic Attenuation are, well, Horde of Winter is no RNG at all, and Runic Attenuation is very little to no RNG at all, just basically getting the different runic power when, or the auto attack runic power when you want it, being the only RNG in that. And Horde of Winter is no RNG at all. You just basically use it when you're out of runes, and you get refunded for the GCD that you spent because it generates you runic power, and it generates even more than one GCD costs. One GCD for Breath of Sindragosa costing 15 runic power. This gives you 25. It gives you basically a refund for Obliterate. It's just an awesome talent to play with Breath of Sindragosa, directly increasing the duration of your Breath of Sindragosa by a couple seconds. It's a great talent to play with. I recommend using this talent over the others, but you can use all the talents in this tier. The 58 tier is up to you. I feel like Asphyxiate gets most value out of this tier, being a stun. However, in non-stun encounters where you can only grip things, then maybe Death's Reach. This entire row is up to you. Next up, the 60 tier is going to be in single target Frozen Pulse, and the simple reason is because the others aren't nearly as strong as Frozen Pulse and single target. Avalanche is just not as good as it used to be. I wish it was, because it is a interesting talent rework. It used to be off of Pillar of Frost. Now it is off of Howling Blast with Rhyme procs. I like that. I like that change. However, it just doesn't do enough damage to warrant being the go-to talent in this tier. Frost Scythe, however, is a good talent for AoE situations. It is slightly above DPS neutral on single target. All you would basically do is use your killing machines into Frost Scythe, but however, Frozen Pulse is the go-to talent in this tier for single targets, and it can be a good talent in AoE situations where you're starved, mainly boss encounters where there are going to be ads. However, if there are boss encounters where there are going to be ads on the boss, like Zol or Zekvaz, chances are you're going to be running Frostlight just to help priority DPS those down. So I can't really see Frozen Pulse being used in those kind of AoE situations, but I really like it in Mythic Dungeons, and with testing, I liked it in low Mythic Plus as well. The 75 tier is completely up to you. It's a utility row. Play whatever you want. I like Jetpack for world questing. I like Wraithwalk for most encounters. And I like Permafrost for boss encounters, just because our auto attack damage is so high. Next up, the 90 tier is between Gathering Storm and Frostworm's Fury. Now, they're so close on single target that you can choose whatever you want. I highly recommend to sim it. I recommend simming every single one of these talents just to make sure you're running the build that's right for you, because my stat weights over here, as you can see, they're going to be different from your stat weights, unless you've got the exact same gear as me, which I significantly doubt. So I recommend simming all these talents, deciding what you want to play. I like Frostworm's Fury more than Gathering Storm because it takes a lot less brain power to use, and contrary to popular belief, that's a good thing. So, especially in World of Warcraft, and making the build very easy for having the same DPS as a complicated version of the build is better. It's just better. So, Frostworm's Fury is very easy. All you basically do is you use it at the end of your Pillar of Frost, or if Fallen Crusader is falling off a little bit earlier in it, and that's it. And then you're done. You're done using it for a bit. Now, if there are AoE situations in the encounter, like a boss such as Zekvaz or Zol, then you're going to want to stack it up with as many ads and your Pillar of Frost as possible. So that's really it. Gathering Storm, it takes a lot more brain power to use. It's a lot harder to play with now with the GCD changes and how slow the spec really plays. It just doesn't get as much value as it used to, where it was so strong before because you were able to get extends. I remember one point where I had a Remorseless Winter up for a minute straight in Antaros. Well, you're not going to be able to do that anymore. Chances are the most you're going to have this up is 15 to 18 seconds. Maybe more, probably about that much though. So you're not going to get as much utility out of this talent as you used to, but it's still a viable talent. In Glacial Advance, it just doesn't fit in this build, but it fits in a different build, the Obliteration build, which we'll go over in a separate video. And last but not least, Breath of Sindragosa, phenomenally strong talent. Not the most interactive talent to play with, but an incredibly powerful talent, nonetheless. Now quickly for the consumables and the enchants. So for consumables, you're going to want to, of course, use Flask of the Undertow for the strength bonus. And for the actual consumable potions, you're going to want to be using Bursting Blood for straight up single target. And in AoE/cleave situations, you're going to want to use Battle Potion of Strength. Now for your enchants, you're going to want to use Razor Ice on your main hand and Fallen Crusader on your offhand. And for your ring enchants and your gems, you're going to want to go with whatever stat is simming highest for you. It changes so much that I can't just give you what stat is the highest. I can only give you this information and this advice to sim yourself and go with whatever is the best for you at that moment. Now we are moving on to the opener section of the Breath of Sindragosa build. So for the opener, it's a very slow ramp-up time in order to get going. It takes about 10 seconds, maybe even more, in order to get the resources required to start a good Breath of Sindragosa. I'm going to try to commentate over it as best I can. The key things that I'm going to be doing in this is I'm going to pull up to about 90 or more runic power, and I'm going to make sure I have about 3 or more runes before I start. And I'm going to use my Chains of Ice and my Frostworm's Fury at the end of my Pillar of Frost. So let's get going. I'm going to run in. I'm going to Obliterate. If I get a Rime proc, I'm going to use it. If you don't get a Rime proc, you're going to use a regular Howling Blast at the end once you've done all your Obliterates and you're at around 80 or so runic power. So I feel like this is a good point for me to get going with my Breath of Sindragosa right there. Pop Empower, pop Pillar, pop Breath, and then I get going with my cooldowns. And I'm just spamming Obliterate. As you can see, I used one over there. Sometimes it happens like that. I pop my Chains of Ice. I pop that. I popped Horn there because if I didn't, I would drop Breath, and I really just don't want to drop Breath right now. Sometimes I'm overriding. It happens occasionally. Don't worry if it happens if you override a Howling Blast proc. it happens to the best of us. I'm just trying to commentate, so that's why it happened there a little bit. And then if I go over here, as you can see from my breakdown, Frost Breath, normal hit for 41k at the end of Pillar. That means a crit would be upwards of 80k. Cold Heart, same thing. A crit would be upwards of 60k. You can get some really heavy hits of these abilities, so definitely make sure you use them at the end of your Pillar. If you are tracking your Fallen Crusader, like I am right here, and it's about to end like 3 seconds before Pillar Frost ends, then cast it then, because that also gives a really hefty strength bonus as well. And that is the opener. Now, last but not least, I have a little thing about Azerite gear. So I'm not going to tell you what Azerite gear is best, because if I do, this video is outdated in a couple days if they decide to change some things. But there's no way this video stays relevant if I do give you the best Azerite gear. So I am going to show a website on the screen called Blood Mallet. I highly recommend using this website in order to rank your Azerite gear and see what is better. And also use Raidbots in order to sim. Raidbots has a great system in Top Gear that allows you to sim different Azerite traits. The APL is updated very, very frequently, so you can make sure that it is up to date. I highly recommend using those two resources. And that is it for the video. If you guys have any questions, post them down below. You can also reach me on Twitter, and I highly recommend joining the Death Knight Discord. A link to that is also down below, so I recommend joining that. You can ask any questions there. You can use the resources. It is a phenomenal resource in order to learn more about the classes that you play, well, the specs that you play if you're a Death Knight. There are also other Discords in order to learn about other classes. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to give it a like. The Unholy video will be out at the same time, and I'm also going to be doing guides for each spec on different bosses in ul'dir, so look out for those as well. I didn't go in depth in this video because, well, frankly, we just don't know yet how to do different fights, because a lot of the mythic fights weren't tested extensively with the current iterations of Frost and Unholy. So hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.